Hello, everyone.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Nice to
Hey.
see,
guys.
see you all in this beautiful screen. Great to
Wow.
have you guys here on our, I don't know, how many we've done so far, guys? Like
I think
5 or
four.
6?
I think.
I think four.
Yeah, just love them. They're beneficial, I think, to all of us, right? We get to engage in something we love for a good 90 minutes. And today, you guys, right, we have included, of course, Matt and Sarah on panel, and now Rajashree too with us. Here,
Hi.
you guys, she's
Thank
here from
you.
India at 2:15 a.m. in the morning. So I think we need to applaud and say,
Wow.
thank you. Right, you know.
That's true.
So, you know, the format is the same. So it's meant for, you know, an open discussion. You guys have questions and, you know, I may repeat it a little bit if it's unclear or ask you to clarify it. And then we'll have Rajashree and then Matt and Sarah, you know, myself add to it. So good to see you, Daisy, Kathy, Michael, Neil, Jeff, Angie, woohoo, and Daisy in the house. There we go. So who would like to start? Anybody have a way to kick it off? All right, Jeff.
I'll start. Hi, Raj. How you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Good to see you after so long.
I'm so glad that you are involved. I see most of major, you know, all these events you are there. So it's nice.
I try. Yes, yes. Yeah, it works well. Are you, is it hot?
Yeah, it's hot and
I
humid
I bet.
and rainy.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, raining. Cool. Well,
Yeah.
we'd love that.
Yeah,
here.
right.
Terrific. Yeah, my first question would be on standing separate leg, head to knee. I noticed that when I try and go a little wider, my back heel will come up. So do I stay going wider and try and push the heel down, or just go as far as the heel stays on the ground?
Can you repeat the posture again one more time, Jeff? What was
Yes,
what
a
one is?
standing separate leg, head to knee.
Okay.
Let's see. Dandiyamana Vipakta Pada Danyusi
You
Rajashree.
got it.
Good
So make a
job.
Got
picture
it.
of you, yeah.
Looks like you did very nicely homework. Well, I will suggest to bend the front knee and to try to see this weight, you know, like that. If you can, slowly when you bend your body down forward, touch the floor and push the floor with your hands palm, and then try to put the weight slowly on your back, going down to lower on the back of the foot, that heel down. So if you try to keep both legs straight a lot of time, and if it is not wider, then it is definitely, it's tougher. It heel comes up. I mean, if it is wider, heel comes up. If it is closer, heel doesn't, but you don't push it enough. You know, it's just therapeutically, it has to be a little bit more effect on the lower back and going through that. So I think it's a position, if someone has a hamstring tight or femur tight, for them to go through that. It's better to keep it the minimum 3 feet gap between the feet, not to close it. Otherwise, you can't really do the compression, because this is not a stretching pose, it's a compression pose.
So go wider and then work the heel down.
Well, yeah, bend the right knee if necessary in the beginning.
Oh, yes.
Keep the wide, yeah. I mean, you don't make it too wide that heel comes up also for that. It's try to go for the like between 3 to 4. Don't keep it 2. Don't keep it 6.
Got
in
it.
between, yes.
Okay. All right, thanks.
But back heel, putting the back heel down is very important, because you do a lot. Yeah, it's very, very important. So that's why I said bend the knee forward. That will help you. That's stretching that the back leg, hips, and the creating that compression on the kidney.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So there's something else, Jeff, that you can think about in relation to that, which is to think of your back leg as your foundation. So the posture isn't about putting all the weight on the front leg. Think about the back leg as your foundation as you're coming down. That will help you stabilize the back leg. It'll help you keep the back leg locked. Whether you're able to fully place the heel will depend upon your range of motion on any given day. But if you think of that versus a lot of people throw their weight forward and then immediately start bending the knee before they've even come down, at which point they've lost their compression and they're kind of collapsing. So if they just think back leg solid and come down from that position, and you may find that your heel is more cooperative anyway.
That'd be nice to have a cooperating heel.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So are you saying, Rajashree, that for Jeff in the beginning, he can even start bending his knee?
Yes, the
Okay.
right knee. We're talking about bending that right knee. Because see, what I understand that his hips has a problem, not he's worried about heels more. So that's why foundation, which is Matt says, is the best thing, like create that as a foundation, get the front leg just a support and try to work on both at the same time. It's not because of most of the people I've seen in this class, people really drop their weights up on the hands and the front leg, and then just let it go. They really don't try to push that hips, because you may feel a little bit discomfort there, but that discomfort will create the, you will break the shells of that fear which is stuck in that hip joint. And I think the standing series, I always find, so my way of saying, like, a lot of emotional release, it's like it really feels like out of fear and out of grief, most of joy you find when you come out. And try to use the core strength at the same time, thigh muscles, squeeze it, going down, coming up. Just don't let those drop, have them use and have the nice and round carving back. And that's really helped.
Okay, terrific. A lot of information. Great. Thank you.
Sarah, do you have anything to share? Sarah?
Well, interesting with this posture. I really totally agree with Rajashree about most people just letting the weight drop on the hands and therefore not getting the benefits of the posture. It's been this was probably the worst posture for me for years and years, the one that I had least facility with, and really for some of that time, I would say that now this doesn't mean I was perfect, but I was striving for perfection. Perfection was the enemy of good. So once I allowed myself to break it down and make a bit of a mess, it started to come so that I could actually do it. So I would say, just from my experience, don't be afraid of making a mess. And trying that, and one thing that did, steps and steps and progressions to it, as I made a mess and I learned how to do it, every time I took Bikram's class, he would say bigger step.
Yeah.
And finally I did bigger step, and now it's all come and I can feel that emotional release that Rajashree was referring to. But I did allow myself to make a mess in between, and if the hip's not perfectly in one line, this doesn't mean
one line we always say in Bhagavad Gita, that perfection comes from perfection. There is nothing perfect. Is that so? It's a very important thing to let go in our mind. The perfection point. It's just how you comprehend that perfection in your
and strive for that perfection, knowing you're not going to get it.
Yeah, and I love what I heard you say. I think we need to remember in every posture, what's the point? And it's a compression.
Yes.
Right.
It's a compression. So, Jeff, you got to work hard to get the compression. Right.
Yeah, and you must know the health benefit of the glands. Very important. It's the renal gland, thyroid gland. Those have such a good effect. So if you create, like if you keep it too close, then you don't have that much opportunity to body to work on those glands, and every time if you see this, when you do these compressions and you start come up after one, maybe going down and putting your forehead down on your knee, You may feel discomfort, but when you come out the second set, when you try to go down, you start feeling so much release from the back tension. And that automatically comes from just trying the right way. The right way is what is we are kind of perimeter we created for us, as in dialogue, that keep your feet apart. You don't keep your feet too close, 45-degree angle on your back foot, and try to push the heel down, which is also the calf, because calves are so tight. And this is the time I feel so great, when these calves, I try to keep pushing the heels down and push the hips up and twist with the body, try to make the hips equally same, kind of like a symmetrical hip. It's not happen, but try. That's again the perfection. You imagine yourself upside down to create that perfection. It's every day a new perfection, new perfect level.
Great.
I like that, everyday new perfect level. That's
exactly
a great way to put it. Yes.
That's really good. I struggled with that at teacher training all the time. And Rajashree, I'm sure you don't remember, but I talked to you about this posture and how come I felt so bad, and not knowing that I'm supposed to feel these things, right? You were so kind to me, saying, especially I could feel the effects even in tree pose, right? Like I could still feel the effects from that posture, even in tree pose. So it is a pretty profound posture, as you teachers know, just watching the students do it, right? The struggle to,
like in the spine, because this really affects the spine, this compression, because you really need to work on the core at the same time when you're doing it. And as we grow and as we are involved with a lot of activities in our life, a lot of degenerative spinal cord, the disease, the vertebrae disalignment, all this happens. And you may think, okay, it was easy for me, but why it is hurting right now? But you will see when from the socket, the joint moves, the vertebrae start making those changes. If you do have a degenerative bone disease or the spinal alignment is not aligned, the spinal cord, maybe the L4, maybe the solar, you will see on the hip joint, you will find a little bit clicked on it, like how it happens on the knee, you find the same way on the hips. And that's, I always find out for me, that posture was so easy anytime, but I just feel like in the morning, that's kind of my way of stretching to open up my hip joint and let legs move faster from the socket of the hip joint. Otherwise, sometimes when you go up the stairs, like one leg goes up and you find, oh, my left hip is hurting right now. It's heavier to me to lift the knee up from the floor. Why is that? So this posture really does help that, because it's like it works with which I said, perfection comes from perfection. That day, how you slept, how long you had like you sat on the chair, or did you have really movement in the daily life that day, what activity you did, how active you are. It can really explain you the hips and the shoulders on that day. This is a great pose though.
Wow.
This is for activity.
Perfect. Wow, that's a lot.
A lot of stuff there to listen to again, Jeff, all of us, right? For all of us. So yeah, let's move on then thank you. Let's move on to the next question.
Don't be shy.
Please join. Just whatever, every question is something new and answerable. So please ask.
I have a question. And I want to say this is a great honor, by the way, that you're able to join us for the Q&A.
Oh, thank you.
So when I do the seated fixed firm pose, I'm able to sit back on my heels, and my hips are touching my heels just like they're supposed to be, and my feet seem to be in the right angle, and I'm able to get my elbows on the floor, but I'm not able to get my get my butt on the floor. And even though I've been practicing for many years, and I do practice, I practice, 4 times a week, via live stream, and I've been doing that for years. But I still just am not able to go past the point where my elbows are on the floor. So I'm wondering, and opening up my knees doesn't really seem to help. So I'm wondering if that's just what it's realistic for me to do right now, or whether there's something more that I should be aiming for.
This pose, it's challenging for as you get older. Of course, we don't define age in yoga, but I define age means in yoga that how long are you practicing and how regular you are in practice. Because if you do a practitioner once in a while, it's very tough to do this, and you have a lot of going for other activities like running or walking. Definitely your ankle will put on so much weight that when you are sitting on that position, the way the position is, it creates a lot of pressure on your ankle joint. So if I go on therapeutically to help this pose, I don't like to push this pose just not watching the person who is practicing, because it's you don't know. I don't know how's your knee. Is there any previous knee condition or not? So I would always say just sitting, as much as you explain to me, it's good enough, because it's what that posture does for you. It's already getting it, just getting in there. So most of the time, we always think about looking at the finishing of the postures and think my benefit only remains when I am doing that way. If I'm going the posture slowly progressing, beginning, middle, it's not I'm getting the benefit. But believe me or not, you are getting more than before, or others, I would say, because some people are okay with it going all the way down, but they are benefit. If there is a way to measure it, you will see basically the way your anatomical structure is, you getting more, because the flexibility, the strength, and bone, and on the circulatory systems and all these things, you achieving what you necessary. Therapeutically, what we do in situation like that, many times we put some pillows underneath. If I'm giving you private lessons, I'll try to make you comfortable. I'll have like a cushion you will be able to sit on. If your hips not touching the floor, it's not a problem, as long as your knee is not coming up when you're trying to push your elbows down, because you have to, even you keeping the knees open, but all of a sudden you're letting your body go backwards more and more, and your knees coming up, and you putting a lot of pressure on the knee joint. So those times we try to keep something underneath to just support the back, that you let your fear off from the hips and the knees and the ankle. But it's not possible in the classroom setup where it's 25 people and one teacher is leading the class. But that's why that time the private lesson comes on, is like a support system to how to move and experience for a few days how your knees and hips is going to feel when you are. Then in your mind, maybe you're stuck that position. You're not trying to go further because we love our body. We don't want to get pain in our body, and pain scares us. But you can let that pressure off, and you can see it's okay. Or, every day, if you're a strong person and you can take that, I will say every day, breathe through it and just try to see, keeping that knee, whatever you're feeling open. And as much as you're sitting, not maybe too high, I'm sure is, like maybe a half little bit off from the ground. trying to bring the elbows more and more, and then slowly maybe body not down, try to bring the head backward and see how that feels. It's just the feelings you got to break through. You know, that's where we are. Did it help you? Did it help you too?
Yeah, so my knees are not coming off the floor. My knees are staying on the floor.
Yeah.
And I had the great benefit with with Michele, Matt, and Sarah of doing we did many 5:30 a.m. Zoom classes where there were only a few people online. So they were able to work with me to start the posture with my knees together and keeping my knees together, and paying attention that I wasn't taking my knees off the floor and that my feet were at the right angle. So those parts have been going okay, and I'm okay if I'm not actually completely down on the floor, but I'm following the dialogue. I'm okay with that because it means that I'm getting the medical benefits as much as I can. So but I just wanted to see if there's something more that I should be aiming for, even though I believe that I'm pretty much following the dialogue.
I think you are. I mean, now maybe Matt can explain, because you are following Matt in the class, or Michele or Sarah. So where you see where he stopped to grow.
So, I mean, I had a similar experience when I first started teaching, first started practicing. I couldn't sit all the way down. And initially it was just, haven't done yoga, kind of stiff, joints. I had problems with my knees when I was younger. And so that was the first bit. And I worked through that. But then there was a period of time where I still wasn't able to sit down. And I was trying to go back. And the more I went back, the tighter my hips got, reacting to all of that pressure. And so one thing I did, which worked very well for me, was to just back off and focus on sitting down. So for a few, only for a few classes, it only took a few classes where I just sat and I didn't worry about going back, and I focused on trying to release the tension in my hips and my knees and my thighs, and just let myself go down and just experience that. And then once I got the sensation of what it was I had to let go of just to go down, I could start to go back, and then sense that, oh, I just tightened it back up again. So back off a bit, and then learn how to let it go so that I could go back without tightening up.
Yeah.
And there's a very important line when you're all the way down. No, you're not quite there, but when you're all the way down, there's a whole upper body relaxed on the floor kind of thing. And I tend to think of that as whole body relaxed on the floor, because there is that tendency to tighten in reaction to the pressure in the knees, and that tightening will just stiffen you up. It'll just get in the way. So that might be something to explore. And like I said, for me, it only took a couple of occasions of just choosing to let go of trying to get somewhere and just focus on a piece of the puzzle, to get an awareness that I was indeed actually holding, I was tightening. And I didn't realize it was until I paid some attention to it.
And when you were doing that, did you open up your knees more?
I did just to release some tension there, and just focus on how do I let go of all of this tension, because I started with the idea that the issue was I was holding tension rather than the issue was some mechanical limitation in my body, and it turned out that for the most part that was the case.
We get really stuck with the dialogue, the final dialogue. See, when we are in there, because they were preparing you, and then you are stuck with that keeping me together. But allow yourself that, because it's that we resist so much. It's like I always feel now more I'm getting older, and I feel myself that what we put on the mat, and it's the way our life goes on that day. So it's so much like our daily life. We resist, we hold tension, and if someday we don't hold the tension and we don't resist and experience the feelings of just to feel how it feels. And then you'll see the beautiful way of breath and mind. It helps body to explore new ideas, new challenges. That's exactly what Matt's trying to say that. And that's a very good experience in yoga, because that's where the yoga makes a lot of sense in our inner self.
Yeah, that's just beautiful.
Great, thank you.
Do you want to
You're
add to that, Sarah?
Well, I was only thinking, Neil, since you're very motivated, and as a credit to you, that what Rajashree said, of course, the hips a little bit off the floor, not mattering. You know, you're doing it. Everybody else has said, confirmed you're doing right way. But if you wanted to play with it, if you had some time, you might sit on a pillow, support yourself, and then spend a little bit longer, just play with it. Maybe you've done the whole class, you're warmed up. Sit on the pillow and go and see what you can do if you stay in longer, go very slow and breathe.
Yeah. So there's something about that, you know, using a pillow. So for instance, in Iyengar yoga, they use props a lot and very, very famous for furniture yoga. But Mr. Iyengar used to get very angry at his teachers when they would give the blocks to people to make the posture easier. And he said, that's not the point of these props. The point of these props is to help you be in a place where you can do the posture. Mm-hmm. And so for the cushion, as Rajashree suggested, it's not to support you, it's to help you relax where you are.
Yes.
So that little bit of support lets your muscular system kind of go,
let go a bit.
Oh, okay, okay. Now I can relax a little bit. So you can do that yourself with some conscious effort, or you may find, as Rajashree said, that a little bit of support will help you gain that insight, that connection to that relaxation. But it's that relaxation that you're seeking.
And maybe a little bit longer, you can go little by little by little with that thing helping you, and you might feel something.
No, it's interesting too that you brought that up, because it's such a theme, Neil, and I thank you too, because you know, when I hear you talk about it and the three of you talking about it, I mean, there's so much even unconscious fear we're holding on to and don't know. And I'm not saying that's it, but it could be an indication that there's a lack of trust somewhere, right? And using the pillow, you might find that out. I know I have too, right? In certain areas of my body where, you know, if I work with it as opposed to against it, right? Like I'm frustrated, and maybe it's not even a conscious frustration, right? You're just kind of denying that you can't do it or whatever. But, you know, if you work with it, you know, then, you know, who knows, you know, what could open up for you. I mean, I think it's interesting that you brought it up. I mean, even you said yourself that you feel stuck, right? So, you know, what a great posture for you to work on, which is kind of, you know, it translates into just something going on in your life even, right? If we get really to the heart of the matter, you know, so it's cool. That's very cool.
Great, thank you.
Well, Lisa, this is the way we actually increase or gain our concentration. See, the concentration is in throughout our body. Concentration is not when we are putting focus on doing some work. I mean, we're really doing yoga is also a physical work that time, but we're not finding that as body as a medium. Body is like where we are holding that tension, but we're not aware of it. That means we're not putting attention, we're not putting concentration. So a lot of time in yoga, we're kind of like confused, or we are really not finding how to hold our concentration, you know. We are slowly kind of aware of that focus has to be on breathing now. We have to be most of the time we're breathing. We should not hold the breathing. But after breathing, it's also a physical body. And we are just focusing on, even if we are focusing on the feelings in discomfort, but where there is definitely some comfort. And where we are not, you know, like we're just trying to, we would talk about like positive, negative, positive, negative. If it's negative, then definitely there is a positive. So let's put on there where we need to work on, not worry about that is a negative thing. It's more positive things to go further deeper.
Yes. Well said.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Woo. Next,
Hey, Michelle, I have a question.
Rebecca in the house. Yeah.
Yes. Hi, Raj. Thanks, Matt and
Hi.
Sarah. Thanks for being here. So here's my question. With tree pose and toe stand, and really any of the lotus postures, like even in the advanced series, my my hips don't like them. I'm not in pain, but my knee kind of sticks, like lifts up a little bit, right? So when I go into toe stand, my knee is sort of like lifting up instead of pointing more parallel to the mat. And it really makes it harder to be in that posture well. Like I can't then bring my hands to heart center. I can't start lifting up off of my heel. And I believe that I have the strength to do it, but because my hips don't open well, I'm really struggling with all of those lotus postures. And I want to see if there's anything short of, I don't know, surgery to do to help to encourage that that opening of my hips.
Is it the lotus or is it the hips? Because I wanted to find out why you want to do so much lotus, or is it something the hips is bothering? Tell me that first.
So I'm not in pain at all. It's just that when I get into tree pose, my knees never will, they're not getting even close to in one line. My knee sort of sticks up, and it's because of like the rotation in my hip. Does that make sense?
Yes, kind of. I myself even I've been now practicing a little bit more regular. For a long time I haven't had regular. Now from Zoom, when it started being on the home, I've been really practicing regular because I made myself, and I find out that my knee is the problem, not the hips most of the time, because not using the joints getting stiffer before, you know, and sometimes if we gain weight, then the joints gets a lot of less use or difficult to use, and that happened. I'm just saying that just think about one thing is how you use that. Is it something that is the joint is getting inflexibility or is putting a lot of weight on it, and that's why that being a little bit hard to use it or balance it. And then when you're putting your foot there and when you're pressing your foot, are you trying to do the foot in the turning in, like I'm taking as a tree pose? Are you trying to work on the heel up and pushing the knee out or pushing the knee back?
I'm trying to work on pushing the knee back. And I really try to get my like the sole of my foot to point up towards like the ceiling. And even when I do that, it seems to be my hip that just is not wanting to kind of open anymore.
In the standing posture, in the standing tree pose, you feel that?
Yeah.
In the standing, well, I will, if just a class, if I'm teaching you, I'll go on some of the hip flexor exercises to make you feel a little bit more like you have to come one of my Zoom classes. We work on a lot of hip needs love, you know, and that's the way we work on a little bit more on the hip postures. But that's what you're talking about. That's kind of come and go for most of us. So I don't know. I experienced that. If I'm more regular and, you know, if I'm very, basically my mind is free, I'm not tense, my hips are really relaxed and open and I'm happy. And if some reason I'm tight or tense, my hips start getting a little bit stiffer. This is a part of me. I'm giving you, just a suggestion that comes and go. But you are practicing for a long time, right, Rebecca?
Yeah.
And have you stopped the practice and you come back to the practice? You continuously practicing?
Yeah. So I would say that when I was pregnant with my third baby, that's when I noticed the biggest change in my hips after I had Poppy. So I definitely sort of have wondered if some of that is just like the anatomical changes that happened in my body after a third human.
How long ago you had delivered the baby?
That was 3 years ago. So she's 3. But my practice is pretty consistent, and I even practice throughout my pregnancy. So but it's I think I'm feeling frustrated by my toe stand in general. I think it has a lot more to do with my inability to like detach from my progress, and I'm feeling some frustration in like my toe stand and like trying to get into short man, or like those are just not, they're just like not available to my body right now, and I'm feeling frustrated.
Pardon me. I'm in this discussion. I feel I'm definitely discussing about 26 and 2, but I'm also more than that. I'm discussing about yoga, what yoga means to us.
Of course.
So you're very attached of postures. Can you not be attached of certain postures progress? Can you let that off from your mind? Postures can be an obstacle in our body because physical, but I hear it, a lot of emotional attachment involved with able to do it and not able to do it. But you are really in the middle, you are really missing out the fun part of practicing yoga, not particular pose, So if you look at it that way, if I dissect about postures versus the whole yoga, I just want you to, what's wrong if for a little bit, laid back and give yourself a little relaxation, not to push where you are stuck, just see how relaxed you can be and keep doing it. Keep doing it. You may not be able to do fully without hand support of short man pose, but you maybe needed a touch or maybe needed a feet a little open to get a little bit grounded easily. And so nothing wrong with that. Is there anything wrong? You have you don't know. You have a third child. You have a lot more work to do in your life right now. Your life is busy. You're taking your frustration off on the pose. That's what I hear.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Your frustration, you're getting off on your short man pose, not able to do it.
Michele could probably say, that sounds like Rebecca.
Yeah. That's why I'm smiling. You're getting a whole lot of love, Rebecca. You're getting a whole lot of love right now.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I will work on that. That will be front and center in my mind. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Rebecca, there's something else that just to add to that, which just about using your body, which is actually a little bit analogous to what we said to Neil about fixed firm, which is that, like, if you take tree, but it's true for all of the sort of lotus variations, that this is exercise of using your hip muscles and your thigh muscles working together calmly to cause an opening in the hip, not fighting with each other, and not one of them busy and the other one not doing anything. So your simplistically, your butt is pushing forward as your thighs pushing in and back to open up that hip joint. So your what people tend to do is tie too hard. So then, just like Neil, you just lock your hip up. And so the more you try, you're just tightening, you're pushing against a tight muscle, which is not a healthy way to be physically. And of course, mentally, as Raj was indicating, it's not a healthy mental pattern to be in fighting with yourself like that. One way you can play with that to try and understand the dynamic of it is actually to do tree lying down on your back.
Okay.
And just relax with your leg in the position and work on trying to connect your mind to your butt muscles, to your hip muscles, not just the butt muscle, but that hip muscle structure. Yeah. So those are pushing in as the thighs pushing down, and notice that you'll feel there's fear in that joint. We all have it to some degree or other. There's a tenseness, a fear of that. And so as you lie on the ground, feeling a bit safer because you're lying on the ground, you'll find there's a point where you can discover how to have active thigh muscle and active glute muscles at the same time as relaxing everything else. And you'll see your hip will drop an inch, 2 inches. Once you relax into it, you'll see suddenly it will open up quite a bit more than it does usually. And so you start to notice that that is connected to your mental state more than it is a physical issue to do with mechanics or hips or anything kind of mundane like that.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, that's great advice. I'll take it.
Sarah, I'm going to ask you in a second, but I just want to add to that because a couple of things. I have a left hip issue, and I got to tell you, Rebecca, too, like it's been going on longer than any other kind of maybe issue I've had, and I've wanted to deny it. And just like, and I feel it too. And Rajashree, you're the one who told me also, right, that we hold our emotions, especially us women, right, in our hips. So it's not surprising. And so that the moment though that I started to like accept the fact that I have, you know, some information going on in my hip, I don't want to label it as something, but something's going on there. In fact, you know, Bikram has a saying in one of his recordings, right? If you're watching it, you're listening to it. So I realized I need to listen to it and understand. And I'll tell you what, it's changed and it's shifted. And now I'm like, okay, now what's really going on? So like Matt is saying, in fact, I actually bought some blocks because I'm trying to do the same thing and see if I can't release a little bit of fascia. And I realized too, right? Like if I'm holding on, and you guys, the last 2 years have been nuts, right? It's just surprising that our hips are really tighter than usual, right? Because we've been holding on like the last 2 years with so much uncertainty. So, you know, now I'm in, believe it or not, I'm kind of enjoying it because like you said, Rajashree, it's helped me develop a deeper level of concentration and awareness to myself and my body. And one of the other things I'll just add physically, I noticed for me, because I've opened up to listening to it, right? My QL, my quadratus lumborum, so tight on my left side. So you know what it's doing? It's just pulling my pelvic area. Yeah. And I spend more time now in class focusing on that whole area, stretching and opening, and I don't have pain anymore. Now, I'm not saying that's it, and I'm not saying that I've unlocked it all, but I helped it. I'm cooperating with it. So, Sarah, you want to add to that?
Well, I suspect I'm going to say something that's kind of entirely mechanical, just in case. So from the sublime to the mundane, and probably some of the people on the call are going to be, oh, not again, she's saying that. I just wondered how you pick up your foot when you start the posture. Because often we get hold of the foot and we pull it up, and that sort of the hip comes out of the picture, the knee does all the work. So it's something that Rajashree said the knee might be involved in this as well, and made me think, but also the hip is not doing anything when you do that. So just in case you pick up, I don't know that you can see me, but you imagine you were doing, just in case you're not doing it, you imagine you're doing wind removing, but you're standing up. Start that way, get the whole leg up, and then get hold of the foot. So now the hip is working, and then you start to push the hip forward and the knee back. Now, for people that have knee problems, and this is why I say you're going to say, they can say, oh, not again, she's saying that. That's magic, and that's that technique. But that technique also allows the hip to be doing its work in the right position. So if you're picking it up some other way, explore with bending the whole leg up. The knee joint is closed, and then get the foot and see if it makes any difference.
You know what, Sarah, I actually think of you almost every time I do that
Oh.
posture. I like
Right.
hear your voice
Mm.
because I do. I pick up the knee, I
Good,
close the knee
wonderful.
joint, I
Yeah.
place the heel high up in the hip.
Perfection. And the
And
same
I
in the
think
toe
of
stand,
you,
even though you don't have to go
I
as
mean,
high.
daily when
Oh, there you go. Well, you're doing that already, so that's
yeah,
so
I am.
yes, just in
But
case.
it's such a great cue, and I replay it in my head because it's so good for that particular. Yeah, I mean, it works so well. So
And also
I hear you,
because
Sarah,
of the
in my brain.
also on the standing series, everything is all about, you know, like alignment. So we're focusing on that alignment. So I want you guys to, like, when we lift the foot up, which is reminded me that many times people lean on one side and then they try to get back to the center or leaning on, and that's so much on the hip socket sometimes, you know, and you're putting that pressure unconsciously. But if you try to be more straight from the beginning, using the body's other muscles, which is a very normal, common thing, putting, when you lift the leg up, foot up, how you using the quadriceps or using the core, because if you try to depend on those has bigger, you know, the solidness that can help to not putting a lot of pressure on the joints. The muscle mass is much bigger, and so it can use those things. So that's kind of a way of learning how to use the body. Yeah. That's also focusing and concentrating ourselves where and how, you know, how they teach you, not when you injured your back. The whole doctor teaches you how to lift stuff up from the floor. You just bend the knees, and then how you don't just go drop your chest forward down to lift it up, then you'll hurt your back again. It's a process, the same way we do in yoga, but we don't really sometimes notice those things, but those are noticeable. Unless we have some issues, then we start thinking all this.
That's why injuries and stuff like this, right, can be a great teacher.
Yeah, interrelationship, you know, with ourselves. I see you have baby with you. Hi. Is that your oldest one?
No, this is my
middle. Hi.
Hi there.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you, Raj and Michelle and Sarah and Matt.
Thank you.
All right, guys, good questions. Next one.
I'd like to go. For me, I'd like to talk about shoulders. When I do half moon pose, especially, or balancing stick, I use a lot of sheer strength to pull up. But when I check on the side, I can see that I'm quite jackknifed. You know, I'll feel like I'm as straight as I can be, but if I look at a side view, it's really more like this. So I'm really struggling to straighten it out. And, you know, I'm really aware of pulling the shoulders up, but I'm wondering if what would help me is to think about rotating my shoulders out as well, because I have been doing that. I'm not sure if that's sort of the goal of doing it, to rotate out as well. So, you know, like that.
Michael, you making your body and posture very difficult from the beginning. First, when you are on the side, you are watching the side. I don't know how you watch your side view.
Rarely do, but sometimes I check and I'm really surprised. I'm like, whoa, I'm not as straight. Because, you know, if I look straight on, I'm like, oh, I'm doing good. You know, I'm struggling. I can feel in the upper back, you know, a tightness there too that is connected. But yeah, I just, is the rotation of the shoulders something that comes into play for people a lot as they progress?
I'd rather you focus on pushing the hips and bend your body to your right side, not to worry about the shoulder. Because you starting from there, as soon as you think about shoulder rotate, going forward or backward, immediately you are allowing your very limited space to move and grow for, you know, yourself. You are not having the benefit from the pose what's supposed to be. So I really want you to just stretch your arms, try to be biceps touching with your ears, the way it stays, and stretch up. And just bend it. Don't look at your side view mirror to see your side. See from the front. From the
Yeah, it looks great from the front.
If it is straight, why are you making it difficult? If it is straight, be happy with it. It's straight. And just push the right hip to your opposite side to bend down. And that's it. And keep opening your arms, pushing the hips forward. The dialogue, follow the dialogue. Leave the shoulder alone there. Let the shoulder open up, because if you bringing forward, shoulder down, that's the time you need to think about it. But not if shoulder is doing all other stuff, but the rotation is not happening, you know. It's in our mind sometimes. We make it so harder. So don't make it. Just do it what's supposed to be done.
So don't even think about rotating out or any of that. Just
No, because
keep pushing straight up.
because you are stopping yourself. You're stopping thinking about my shoulder and arms is right or wrong, but actually it's supposed to be starting from the pushing the hips and bending body down. Keeping look, this is wrong, right? You know this is right. If this is like this, you know this is wrong. Try to be stretching it out. That's fine, just the way it is. But if the shoulder rotate or shoulder rotate back, this is my imagination I'm trying to create there. Because you allow yourself biceps touching with your, stretching your arms forward up, stretching it up, and bend your body down, keeping it the same way. But that time, if your arms coming up, then you bring the arms back. That's all you can do. But you can't think about that time shoulder. Let body go bent. Okay, you guys join now. Tell me what I said.
100% what Rajashree said. And one other aspect of the dialogue, just make sure in case you're not, you bring your arms over your head sideways when it says, you don't bring them up some other way, because that gives you best chance. But,
Okay, that's a good tip. Yeah, because a lot of times due to limited space, I might go up this way.
Do you bring it from the front? Then it's wrong. Bring it from the side, then you can actually have.
You access
that
it better.
That's important. That's very important.
Also remember that, you know, your standing up straight has nothing to do with your arms. You can stand up straight with your arms by your side. So that's, you know, that's your thighs are going back, your hips are going forward, your abdomen is going back, your chest is lifting up. So you're standing up straight. The problem then is that stiff shoulders, when you bring your arms, like if I do this, then the stiffness of my shoulder blades, the scapula not being fluid enough, will cause me to push my body out of position. So that's why, you know, Sarah's saying, you know, arms over here sideways, when you turn your palms to face out and lift your arms up from the side, you're basically practicing the movement of your shoulder blade. Your scapula is moving. And obviously over time, the fluidity of that movement will improve. But we do lots of things that will help with that. I mean, any of that arms over the head sideways, balancing stick, obviously, half tortoise as well. You know, anytime we work on, anytime you hear us say anything about scapula in the dialogue, you know, there's activity happening there.
But I would say, just for you, don't think about what your scapula is doing. Just bring your arms over your head sideways.
And think about
because we never talk about what is the sideways mean. What the sideways really has benefit in our shoulder joint. See?
Yes.
It never occurred to me that it was important as a setup.
Totally, you guys, and that's a great point, right? Is setup is key. And how many times in the class do we say arms over your head sideways?
Many times.
We say it so many times. So if you're practicing a lot, right, it's going to open up those shoulders anyway. And same thing, how many times, you guys, do we see students in class with their hands this way?
Exactly.
Right? Their palms being together, that's going to affect your neck and shoulders too. So I mean, you got to just stick to the basics.
If you want to get a sense of your shoulder blade, if you think that's the source of stiffness, then pay attention to arms overhead sideways with straight arms. So straighten your arms before you lift them up and keep them actively engaged as you lift them up, because a straight arm is a pure scapular movement. So that's a way to get a direct line into your scapula, which is why in various postures, like in half moon, like in balancing stick, like in half tortoise, we ask you to lock your elbows. When you've locked your elbows, then you can isolate the movement, and you're now connected to the relationship between your scapula and your rib cage. And that over time will awaken the intelligence there and awaken the natural range of motion. But it can be as simple as having straight arms as you do arms over the head sideways.
So you have it because the arms will have come down, they're there. If you don't do anything else and then you bring them slowly over your head sideways, you have it.
Yeah, the medical doctor place, that's what the range of motion they really find out, because they say, can you bring arms over your head? And then they say, can you go touch the floor? Because that's the movement where you supposed to be able to use it, the whole range of motion of the joint. And that's
that's why the setup is so key, you guys. How many times do we as practitioners and teachers watching students have bent arms and bent legs?
Yeah.
You gotta really work on, in half tortoise, even today when I taught, it's so hard, but you have to try. Baby fingers on the floor, elbows locked. Right? That's exactly what you're helping your shoulders with. There's nothing you need to add, Michael. You just got to go in deeper and understand what's happening in the setups, right? And the entry, the exit, all that with the, and then here we go again, right? This kind of stuff makes you hone in and concentrate and listen more to what's there already. You don't add anything, right? And there's nothing wrong with you. That's the other thing we tend to do too. We think something's wrong with us.
Then we try to fix it, and it becomes programmed.
And then it's worse, right? And we're laughing, Sarah, because we've done it. I've done it. In
the postures, it's very interesting because I learned the yoga therapy, and yoga therapy, we have all these movements, like we work with just keeping the hands, different position, arms, different position, open, and moving with the hand, palm, and the shoulder joint. It's so hard, believe me, unless we try that way, because then we really appreciate when we put this in the asana position, when arms over your head, and we find, oh my God, certain people like who practices therapy, they think this is very tough. But when you are allowing this, you really understand how you're putting those together, and you see this is how simple way you can actually bring all together. What you're doing in simple, like in physical therapy. The physical therapy, they're trying to bring the range of motion and muscles ability, neuromuscular stability and connection. But it's funny that in the yoga pose, it's all together. It's already there.
Yeah, it's already there. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Good question, Michael.
Great, thank you.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. Great question and answers. Thank you, Rajashree. It's good to see you, Michele, Matt and Sarah and Kara. Actually, this question from a student, because North Beach, if you remember, is all windows and then have a big heater. So when I close all the windows and one student, she said not enough oxygen. Even I say just plenty of oxygen. And I think maybe the mind or somehow she says not enough oxygen, and she want to keep opening when I help open the window. So any advice that ensure her there's enough oxygen in the room? No?
Rajashree?
No, because I know, Daisy, what you're talking about. I have a both way answer. The way answer is that yoga class, I don't like to keep the window open. but when I sleep in my bedroom, I like to keep my window open. So now I tell you, because of what is this now? It's in my mind. If I don't have window open, I won't be able to sleep because I won't get enough oxygen. Okay, but in the yoga classes, keeping window open, because if I'm using the heat, that little part, the air will go out and I'll feel cold. I won't sweat enough. So I want you to think with me where I am stuck. Can you help me? It's our mind, basically. You know, I respect the student very much. Like some people wants to be close to the heater, doesn't want to work hard, but wants to get sweat. And some people will be far away, wherever, doesn't matter. They work hard, they sweat, and they won't complain. The people in the front row, they see the mirror very well, but they will move too much and disturb the whole class, but they will never go back to the stand in the back row.
Okay.
So think about all this stuff. So this is my experience of running studio for many, many years. So I'm asking you guys, you answered Daisy's this question because I don't think she should not have a problem with this, you know, but if you're making, if you're making her happy, keeping the window open and other 10 people are happy with it, okay. But if other 10 people say close and she says open, then what you do?
For now, I have her stand next to the window side and give a little bit crack window. Let her, but she has to come early, right? Get that spot. And that's it.
Great.
So Daisy, I mean, I would say just because on the other side of this, on the science of ventilation is something that I studied a lot when we built our studio. So I totally agree with Raji. I think that you should start with the assumption it's in the person's mind, because if there was a severe buildup of CO2 in the room, it would affect everybody in the room.
Yeah.
It wouldn't just be one or two students who were asking. You would see huge amounts of lethargy, slowness, headaches, fainting. You know, I mean, and it would affect everybody in the room to a lesser or greater extent. You know, when you've got a couple of students who are saying, I can't breathe, it's not the room. You know, I mean, there are situations. I've been in rooms that were poorly ventilated, but it's rarer than you think. You know, it's far more likely that it's just in their mind. And so I would say to you, don't have them stand next to the window, because what you're doing is enabling a false belief. And so they'll continue to believe that that's giving them relief, when in fact it's not. The relief is, our liberation, our path to liberation is a freedom from the false understandings of ourself that we have. And so we don't want to reinforce those. We want to have them shift their attention to concentrating on locking their knee. And then eventually they realize they managed to get through class without worrying about suffocating,
Okay, quick. I'll take her to San Jose. Next time, take her to San Jose so you can.
Oh, thanks.
Yes.
Sarah, add to that. I have something big to add to this too. Actually, it's a very point.
I did teach one person who would come in one day and say the room was too hot and she couldn't breathe. The next day it was too cold, and this was the same room. It was every day. So it's like it was entirely her. And I know I've had that experience myself. I've walked into a boiling hot room in a certain physiological and mental frame of mind, and it's boiling. So a lot of that is subjective. But nothing big.
Yeah. When I hear things like that too, it gives me information about that student, and it tells me too that there's a trust issue going on, right? And so it's a fine line, because I agree with Matt. You don't want to enable that person and give them false information, and at the same time too, you don't want to fight with it, because then they're just going to fight back. They're in a, kind of in a defensive place. And for whatever reason, they want to believe that. So sometimes in my case, I had a student today, and even the first correction that I gave her, because she was deciding to do a back bend without her arms, and I was helping to correct her, and she completely kind of shook her head no. Right? Like, so you know that this person, you're not going to reach them. You know, you're not, and remember, the class isn't about the teacher, it's about them. And you want to be glad that they're there, and also know that the yoga eventually is going to penetrate whatever drama or defensiveness or investment they have in making that statement true. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I think it's a really
Very
great point, Daisy, because I think if you guys are with me, we see it a lot in different ways.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, just the fact that they came to class, you know, the yoga is going to work. You just got to keep them coming. And hopefully, you know, there was a guy that brought in his own little massage balls that would, you know, want to use these massage balls during class. And, you know, the moment he was in my class, I remember making a note to myself to like, let's keep the class moving and concentrating. You guys, he didn't think about the balls once. So I'm not saying it's me. I'm just saying you need, you know, right? Like get them to do the yoga, right? Like that's the point, right? Don't try to address their excuses, you know, or screw loose mind or whatever, right? You know, welcome them in, bring them in the mix, give them the yoga straight up. Right? So I'm just adding to what else is necessary. If you need to if she needs to be calmed down, like this girl wasn't going to listen to me anymore, and that's okay. I decided just to bless her, give her a lot of love in that corner, encourage her, and then, you know, she's on an intro, and hopefully the yoga will start to help her see that, you know, maybe she doesn't need to do that stuff anymore.
Michele, you said very nice. It's a one thing to that trust issue. There is a lot of human body, even as a teacher, as a student, even a teacher when we practice, because that's why practice keeping us in touch with students, because if we don't practice, we don't know what students' mind going on. So what is it? So basically, the trust thing is here about trusting the process of what's going on in your body and in the class with others, interactions without even talking, just in presence there. Also trusting the teacher, also trusting yourself. You know, like this is like a 3-4 things, trust things is going on in here. And that's a lot of things in the hours, because that's every day different trust issues, because it's our own way of experience that day, how we are, our thoughts and minds and emotions and feelings. So in the class, it's a very important. That's why, as a teacher, it's just my suggestion not to, we be passionate, you know, about them. We should be compassionate, but we will let them judge their things, but we should be strict with our rules, you know, like our guidelines, that if we are trying to comfort one, then other is not able to experience that comfort, because you're catering one person. So we must have collectively one way of doing things, how to run this class. And then each individual will find their way. We're not going to push each individual, because we're going to let them feel safe and work with themselves. As a teaching for a long time, that's what I always try to do, because I don't go the person who I find the weakest and keep bugging them, I just leave them alone, you know, let yourself come out and find yourself to be standing up.
Okay, but yes.
There was a very interesting article this week in the New York Times about how to get used to heat. And they had interviewed this guy who he's like a long distance runner, and he runs across the desert. So the reporter figured if anybody would know something about getting used to the heat, you know, this was the guy to talk to. And they actually, you know, if you could look up the article, they actually had like a few tips that he gave. But one of the points that kind of stuck out in my mind was that a lot of people, like they think like, okay, I work in an office during the day. I'm an office worker during most of the day. And then I come and I do yoga for like an hour a day. And those are separate parts of my life. And this guy's point was you should actually think of yourself 24 hours a day as an athlete. And everything that you do during the day kind of fits into this worldview of that you're an athlete and you don't have two separate personas, but you just have one persona, and it and it's consistent. So things like, for example, when you're in your car, don't turn on the air conditioning. It just kind of like gets you in this mode of just thinking of yourself as having one persona. This is also a point I know that Michele and Matt and Sarah make during class about how the removing the boundaries between your what you're doing in the yoga class and what you're doing in the rest of your life. But anyhow, it was kind of an interesting article, and there might be some things that are useful, but I know that I found it very useful because the whole idea of just thinking, when I started, like, the heat for me was an adjustment, and I actually started making lists of things I could do to get more used to doing the heat, like being careful to breathe and not fidgeting around and all that. And when you do that, you realize that you actually have a lot of sources of leverage, many more than you ever realized. And that helps you actually 24 hours a day when you get used to it. So it's just my thoughts.
But Neil, it's a very good point. That's called discipline, because the discipline keeps that boundary where the wall is very tight, and it's us, we let that boundaries be relaxed and keep trying to find a easy way going. Yeah. So this discipline, what we really actually in the yoga, we call yoga anushasanam. Yoga writes the discipline life. That's the first law, and the first scriptures, that definition is there. So we always start with this in India, this word, and yoga karma shukaushala. Yoga also teaches to do the work with smartly. Those two lines is in Sanskrit, phrase is there already. So the discipline and the how to work smartly, because you can work at the end of the day, they're not satisfied. But what is that means if we start thinking, that's exactly all these way aspects, how to find that. So it's really true.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes, it's like, when you're in your extreme heat or extreme cold, it's not the fact that it's hot or cold that bothers you. It's not even the sensation of it being hot or cold that's bothering you. What's bothering you is that it bothers you.
Exactly.
That's what's bothering you. It's bothering you that it bothers you. So that your bother is creating all of your discomfort. So you can sit not bothered by the heat, not sweating. And as soon as you get bothered by the heat, you start sweating buckets and you're tightening up inside and your heart's pounding away. And then if you calm your mind, then suddenly you're not sweating so much and you're not as tense. So it's all the mind's reaction to what's happening that's causing the disturbances. As Rajashree said, that's the foundation of the Yoga Sutras. What are we really working on here?
And good advice right there, Matt, for Daisy's student.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, very good. Yeah.
I mean, exactly what you just said is great advice for,
yes.
allowing her, hopefully maybe having an open mind at some point where she can understand why it bothers her so much.
I'm working on her. I think she's getting better, but yeah, I'll bring her to see you because she's very interesting student, new, but very cool. One day I'll bring you to San Jose.
Most of you are teachers here, so if you read all those Patanjali Sutras, then there's so many, over 100. So it's just 1, 2, 3, 4 at a time. You should start reading it and interpret with your own way first, because you have to interpret yourself first, how it reacts to your self-life, and your daily life and your inner life. So you will see so much what we are.
Yeah.
It's like each one of us, the way we carry those sutras with us. And that's the most important. It's a fascinating to read and understand that. And you can actually, it's so much for our individual life. Even doesn't matter where you're born, which culture you come from, what foundation you have, but it's for you, it's for human life. And you can apply to your human life, and you can have a betterment, you can have a better product coming from your life. Product means what you want from your life, living happy or being successful, what you do, because that gives us that discipline.
Yeah. That's a great idea, actually.
So Michele, we do have one question we got sent in online. Should we cover that?
Sure. Yep. Unless there's anybody else have something right now you want to say.
We're almost end of the program.
Yeah, I want to ask later about any information on teacher trainings, but that can wait until after posture
Not
questions.
yet. I don't have. Sorry, I really don't have. As soon as it is, you will know. Definitely, even whatever it's putting out there, whatever training is going to be. I mean, so many trainings out there. I just don't want to say anything, anymore.
And Jeff, Jeff, you can rely on myself, Matt and Sarah, as soon as we know something, and I'm on, I'm trying to have a pulse on it a lot. Okay, so I will let you know ASAP, as well as all of you.
But I will also encourage, keep going the way you guys are doing it, because there are other things we cover up like this. This is a very nice format that people get to know and interconnect, exchange the knowledge and experience.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Raj.
You're welcome.
Go ahead. Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
All right. So this question was sent in by somebody who couldn't make the call, but they're going to listen to the recording. Katie. So the question is a little long. I'll try and summarize. That her question is how to concentrate on her wrists, especially during the following postures: Garudasana, Dandasana, Janu-Shirasana with Paschimottanasana. The short story behind this is I started to get more aware of my twisted, not straight wrists when experienced Bikram yoga teachers corrected me, but without outer corrections, by which I interpreted she meant somebody telling her. By myself, it's very hard to focus on the wrists when meanwhile there are so many other things to be concentrating on. I remember when I got those precious corrections in Prague and in Calgary, and after those classes, my feet did not touch the ground and I felt aligned. So the question is, how do I concentrate on my wrists in various appropriate postures? And Katie's from Helsinki. So,
wow.
Hi, Katie.
Well, hi, Katie. Yes. First thing I will say, this question comes more about hips, knee, ankle. I know it's been students' question. The wrist is more for me, like sounds like someone is training for yoga competition. They're asking. That's something for me, I feel, when the wrist they are talking, because in yoga class every day, we are not so much particularly attached with the wrist because we have such a much more body part to be thinking of, or especially standing on the feet or balancing is much more there. Second core thing, I think, because we are almost ending this with this question, that everybody must go to certified teacher. They should not learn from without having the certification from the teachers, the source, because it's very important. And practicing long time, things changes with the body. Now, to me, that wrist is very important. If advanced class we are practicing, a lot of advanced postures, wrists become very important because we balance on, hands on, and we have many postures we do on the fingers. So the wrist is very important there. I mean, Emmy always is working on the wrist, those. Now in regular 26 and 2, this postures format, wrist is important along with the whole shoulders and the arms. And I think the most important comes into when grip tight, keeping the wrist straight. And when it comes to standing head to knee or bow pulling poses. And that's the time making the wrist straight. But I don't see any other places because wrist moving with the hand palm and palms facing out or turning in, wrist going with the straight align with the elbows and the fingertips. That's my experience because I think this kind of wrist comes with the much more advanced training. And if it is advanced training, it must be trained by, corrected by or applied by you yourself. Otherwise, Katie's question is very interesting that when I concentrate and fix my wrist, then other things got problems. So this is why, if I understood the questions very well, right? Is that the Matt, the question was? The feet was not on the floor, I think.
No. What she said was that when she actually did straighten her wrists in these various postures, she felt like she had a very aligned class and she felt great at the end of her class, but that she finds it difficult to concentrate on straightening the wrists without a teacher correcting her.
Well, then her question already has the answer.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's already answered.
The question already has the answer inside.
She answered it herself. Yeah,
she cleared herself. So,
Yes.
I mean, that's why I said about having a teacher who knows.
Yeah.
But yes, but I think she's a practitioner of advanced class also, not the regular beginners.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Maybe.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but this is really not a question. This is really a hard point
awareness.
of that. Maybe the awareness, or she's trying to say that we don't talk about wrist enough. We talked about shoulder, we talked about hips, we talked about knees, and like feet and all these things.
Yeah.
Maybe we don't talk about wrist that much because wrist comes with the whole hand,
It does.
arm.
Yes,
together.
yes, exactly.
It's already embedded in
It's already in there.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. And
I will correct a student in some of those postures where we have a grip if they are like
100%.
this, because they're tensing their wrist, and this to pull on there is to put a great deal of tension into that joint. And I'll say, you relax the wrist now, so then now this, you can put tremendous pressure on your arms, you can pull a lot safely without damaging your wrist, but this very, very stressful on the wrist. But I'll only do it to a student who is excessively bending the wrists. But to me, how I concentrate on it in my own practice, to answer Katie's question, is how do I concentrate on it? I hold with my fingers and I relax my wrist. And then as soon as I put tension in my arm, my wrist will just naturally straighten on its own. I don't need to think about it. I just need to relax the wrist as I focus on doing what the instructions did, which was interlock the 10 fingers and grab the right foot 2 inches below the toes, pull on the toes, flex the foot, blah, 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 blah. As long as I make sure my wrists are relaxed, because I wasn't asked to tighten them. No, there's no instruction in the dial that says tighten your wrists. Then that's how I personally relax it.
Yeah, I mean, I think few places this wrist is important. We mention about it, and that is bow pulling, balancing stick, and bow hold. And otherwise, it whole comes with the whole arms.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, completely. Yes.
Yeah, Sarah, do you have anything more to add to that?
But the advanced class is very important. Advanced class, this is very important though. Advanced classes, intermediate advanced classes, this is very important. That's all I'm saying. hearing this.
No, I actually agree with what Rajashree said. That way I got my wrist to straighten more was by concentrating on what the whole arm mechanics were doing, you know, and thinking,
Yeah.
yeah.
I have a question about the wrist.
Relax the wrist a lot.
Kathy's asking something. Kathy's
Did
asking
you-
something.
Well, Kathy, yeah, oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay.
In Eagle, I get a lot of this stuff, or this stuff people are doing, and I'm always telling them to straighten the wrist. Do you have any advice on this?
Yes.
I'm saying they should have their wrist straight, but I keep.
That's the right way.
this.
That's the right way you're doing it. The way you're doing it. If some
Okay.
people have those kind of way, then have them hold the wrist and keep them straight.
Okay.
Certain time people have a bicep tight or shoulder deltoid tight, they can go in. Then they can, with the other arms, the fingers, they can hold the wrist and to keep it, but not bending so much. Because
Okay,
a
that's
lot
what
of
I tell them,
time
yeah.
people put a lot of times people put the pressure on, you know, to holding the grip so tight that we started getting bending, and then they come out and they say my wrist joint hurts in the eagle pose, and that we can avoid very easily.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure I was teaching the right thing, because you were saying the only place wrists are important are bow and the other ones. And I'm like, well, wait a minute.
No,
I
you
have
bring
this
eagle pose.
problem with my students. They don't want to do that.
No, I
They
know.
want to do this.
If they're
So,
if they're
Are
close,
you
if
are
they're
you from
close-
Helsinki, right? Helsinki. Are you from Helsinki?
no, I'm
That's-
from Florida. I'm from Hot Yoga Naples. I met you there.
Oh, okay,
months
okay.
ago. Yeah.
No. Yes. Right. Yeah.
Go ahead, Sarah.
No, if they're close, you know, and their wrists are bending, I think because they're trying to get the fingers, they can just slide the bottom hand down a little bit and straighten out the wrists as well, just to, you know, enough so the palms are together. Where some people
Okay.
try.
I do also talk about that. Yeah, but they ignore me, so I just want to make sure I'm still on the right track. You know, keep telling them.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah, so there is a lot of wrist stuff. So hopefully this helps Katie actually too, right? You know, and you're right. You know, Kathy, there is this investment that we want to, you know, we still want to bend the wrist even when we're being corrected. Yeah. It took me a while to figure out too that 10 fingers interlocked didn't mean that your wrists were being bent, you know, right?
Yes.
Right. You know, 10 fingers interlocked. I'm one of those people like, my DNA is like, okay, interlocked, that means it's all interlocked, right? Like kind of, but it doesn't have to be, right? And floor bow is what helped me with that, because the more I loosened it, my wrist straight, I could feel more of a stretch, right? You know, I could use the kick more actually too.
I mean, I personally, I kind of like, one thing I like about Bikram Yoga and how we instruct it is that there's lots of things we don't say. We focus on the key things that you do need to be doing, but there's lots of things we don't say. Either we don't that you need to do, but we don't say them because they will automatically happen if you just follow the primary instructions, or because it's something you shouldn't be adding and shouldn't be doing. But you're adding it yourself. So then a teacher might correct to say, hey, you know, relax that you've just tightened your elbow or something, you know, relax your elbow. Like, you know, somebody who bends their elbows in bow pose, you know, there's no instruction in the Dao to say, don't bend your elbows. But obviously, if you see somebody bending their elbows, you say, hey, relax your elbows, just hold on to your feet.
At the same time, Matt, I will contradict with it is 100% true, because what Katie says that half of the time, Kathy, right? Kathy says that I try to say this, they don't hear. Yes, they don't hear.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what you say, you don't really need to say it because it happened. And other side, as I will say this, when they don't hear, we don't say it, because if we just say it is the basic things, because we think this will happen. But there is always happen, I see one or two, not all of them, but one or two will be someday that they will come and complain that I did something here, I feel something here. Because of, again, I'm coming back, mindfulness concentration during that 90 minutes.
Or how about this, Raj, when they come up to you and say, wow, I've never heard you say that before.
Exactly. That's another thing.
And we're laughing because we've all been there, right? We've all been there.
We are all saying,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
So, oh my God, my headphone got. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, we
Yes.
can. Yes, we can, Rajashree.
Yeah.
You guys, it's 3:30 on the nose.
Yeah.
and
Yes.
I think it's
So
we
I
honor.
Much later in India, or
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hour and a half. But I like to honor the timing. But let's do this again. And Rajashree, I hope you'll join us again, and we can just keep these discussions going. You know.
Oh yeah, I really enjoyed it, really very, very much. I have wonderful time. I didn't expect it. We are going to talk about only the postures, and every posture has everything in behind, you know. It's just like, it was amazing to share with all of you guys this forum. I was preparing for mental health. We are talking about this yoga, and then
that's
we
another
yeah.
That's another podcast, Rajashree. That's another podcast. These are Q&A, and we just kind of open it up and just whatever comes up, which is what's so great. And then people listen to it later, you know, too. So you guys, great.
Yeah, but we talk about physical to the mental.
Yeah,
exactly.
And
it's already.
Yeah, what are you going to take away from this? I'm going to take away with this, the concentration part, really, because of all of us, if we notice that so much we are present with our life, we ignore so many things, what is important, you know, and we focus on something else and we stress out.
Yeah,
and that's what the physical sensation of discomfort, pain, or agony, or because there are so much positive things that we can make it miracle in every day in yoga class, on the mat, and in our lives. But the one particular thing is, if we can't do it, we go after only that one. Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so interesting. All of us, we were discussing, and I myself even, I felt it, that something that it's there, but we are not actually appreciating, it's like we're just one thing we're not able to achieve, and we're just going after that. Why I can't do that?
And that's good awareness, because we have to then sit back and witness the fact that we're being too consumed by one thought.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it's when you relax, when you take the tension out from that, that's the one which we're not able to. And then all of a sudden we will know how to grip that, grasp. It comes very easily because we're not tensing with it. It's going to come, whatever way it is going to come, that's the way it is going to come. So it's a very interesting, this forum. I'm taking away that aware of, like watching, walking into the rooms, and all of us, we are here. And if we say in this room, what did you notice first? All of us have a different answer.
Yes.
Our eyes are always looking for something, what we are seeking,
Right. No, that's a great way to end it, because, so.
That's called Yoga Karma Shukaushala. Yoga Karma Shukaushala.
Thank you.
Thank you
Very
so much.
good.
Thanks, Raj.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Get some sleep. Love you guys. Thanks for joining.
Enjoy the weekend,
on it.
everybody.
Okay.
Love you.
Bye.